How many games are the Panthers going to win this fall? What if I told you they could triple their win total?
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe or follow the show for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, on Twitter at Julian Council, where on Wednesdays throughout the entirety of the regular season, including tomorrow, the weekly Wednesday mailbag is here on the show where I answer those questions. All you got to do is either at me or DM me on Twitter at Julian Council to get those questions into me right now. Today's episode of Locked On Panthers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. What time is it? It's week one, and we are so close to the Panthers heading down to New Orleans on Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time, 12 noon there in God's time zone to start off the 2024 NFL season. As I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. On today's show, let's do it. Season win total predictions for the Carolina Panthers. I have delayed it, but decided why not on this Tuesday, as I believe customarily over the last couple of years, I've been waiting until right around this time before telling y'all what I think the Panthers record will be. And I believe I've gotten it wrong every single time. I think one year I was bullish on the team and felt like they'd win 10 games with Matt Rule as their head coach. They ended up almost making the playoffs, though. So it wasn't that far off. Oh, yes, I was. I was way off that season. Totally okay. Last year, I thought 7 or 8. I needed to see it. And, well, they went 2-15. So no one expected that. You've been right. I've been wrong. I've been not right, but closer. You've been way off. We're all trying to figure it out, and that's the fun about projecting what this team's going to look like, and that's what we've been doing all off season. And it's great to have the hypotheticals and all of that, but now it's over. It's time to play football, and of course, we'll still talk about the hypotheticals and try to project out throughout the course of the season. Let's go ahead. Let's get into how things stand for the Panthers heading into the 2024 regular season. Our friends over at FanDuel have the Panthers over under win total at 5.5. Actually, when I looked at it on Monday, they had it off the board. Every other win total of the teams that they're playing was available. For whatever reason, the Panthers was not. Why? I don't know. I just didn't see it. Now, you look at their exact win total, it is plus 550 for exactly 4, 5, and 6 wins. So if you bet on the Panthers to win 4 games, or you bet on win 5 or bet on win 6, you're good. It's going to be the same kind of return. So they think the Panthers are going to be right there around a 4, 5, 6 win team, where last time I checked, before it's taken off the board on Monday, and it's probably back up there as you're going up and looking at it right now on FanDuel, it's at 5.5. And looking at some of the other teams on this team's roster, like, I do see the Panthers having a great chance to be able to exceed that 5.5 win total and get 6 wins, potentially 7. We'll see how it looks heading into this weekend at New Orleans. Saints only 7.5. I don't think a lot of people, even when we had our NFC South breakdown, which y'all all watch, and thank you for tuning in, as Ross Jackson, who we'll talk to later on this week of Crossover Thursday, the host of Locked On Saints, Aaron Freeman, the host of Locked On Falcons, James Yarko, the host of Locked On Bucks, and I, who all sat down, looked at the NFC South, and I feel like the Falcons are supposed to be the class of the South this year. I think Tampa Bay still has an opportunity, but I feel more strongly about Atlanta. New Orleans, though, no chance at all, which I do think that makes the game on Sunday and a game later on this season here at home in Uptown Charlotte as a game the Panthers can win. They can split with the Saints. They can sweep the Saints. They should not be 0-2 against the Saints. That would be unacceptable. Losing in New Orleans and winning at home, totally fine. Winning in New Orleans, losing at home, not as fine, but totally fine. Going 0-2? No, not at all. Those are games they can win. The Chargers next weekend. Their win total is 8.5. I think Jim Harbaugh is a hell of a coach. When he came to San Francisco, he took over a 6-win team. They won 13 games that year and almost went to the Super Bowl, losing in the NFC title game. I don't think he's going to be able to do that this season in LA, being in the AFC West, and there's a team called the Kansas City Chiefs with a quarterback named Patrick Mahomes who plays for them. Going to be pretty tough to be able to move them out the paint. So I still think that with Justin Herbert having some injuries, I think he's a good player. A lot of change there on that offense. Eckler's no longer there. Mike Williams is no longer there. Keenan Allen's no longer there. Early on in the season, new coaching staff, quarterback missed some time with that foot injury during the preseason. That could be a chance. Panthers home opener to get a win. Then the Raiders on the road as well. There are 6.5 win total. So it's not like Vegas thinks that highly of Vegas, their hometown team there in a couple weeks' time. Like, this is an opening stretch where there's no reason for the Panthers to be 0-3. There is no reason at all. Derek Carr is not impressive. Herbert, he's good. Like, that's the reason for you to lose the game. Gardner Minshew, he has been impressive where he's gone, but he's also just a guy. There's a reason why he's always used as a bridge quarterback. And that's what he is in Las Vegas, a bridge quarterback. They like him right now more than Aiden O'Connell or whoever they may draft next year if they decide to do that. Those are games Panthers can win. 2-1, 1-2. That should be the record. I don't think they're going to go 3-0, but they should not be 0-3 after the opening stretch. And they can be 2-1 by holding serve at home or winning both on the road or having to steal one on the road and have that record as a welcome in the Bengals week 4 where, let's just be honest, it's going to be a lot of Bengal fans here in Charlotte because they live here and they're a good team. And that's just how David Tepper has done this fan base, by getting people to not feel that excited to where they sell their tickets to opposing teams. And it's within people's rights to do that. There could be a pretty doggone good atmosphere there. Week 4, this team is 2-1. Of course, they're 3-0. I don't think 3-0 is a great possibility. 2-1, I could see that happening. And I hope that's what we're talking about in a couple weeks where, oh man, Panthers won on the road, beat the Chargers, especially if you can beat the Chargers, beat Harbaugh. It's like they won on the road, beat Harbaugh. It's the team that already has matched their win total from a year ago. Big chance against the Bengals. Hopefully that's a conversation we're having a couple of weeks' time. Like the Bears game on the road, that'll be difficult. 8.5 is their win total. We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of signs thanking Carolina for DJ Moore, for Caleb Williams, and that does not necessarily buy the Bears' respectability in a win. It may on that Sunday, but I still have a lot of questions of whether the Bears are truly a contender this year in the NFC North. The Falcons, I just think they're the class of the NFC South. Now, 9.5 is their win total. So it's not like it's that significant. It is compared to the Panthers and to the Saints, or they have 2 more over, and they have 2 more over the Bucks as well. I think that that's going to be tough to win either at home or on the road. That first one will be at home in Carolina. The Commanders, though, there's like a 3-week stretch where there's 3 games I think the Panthers can absolutely win. Playing the Commanders at Washington, never easy on the road, but still, we'll see where Jaden Daniels is at. I am a little bit more skeptical than I think a lot of folks in the national media are about his ability to come out and immediately play at the high level. Their defense should be spectacular, though, and that will be something for the Panthers to have to overcome. The Broncos, Bo Nix, another thing where rookie quarterback, him and Sean Payton probably a better fit than Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, as crazy as it may sound. I just don't really buy into Bo Nix either. And you're getting a rookie quarterback. You got to be able to take care of that. And then on the road, I mean, not even on the road, but out of the country in Munich against the Giants, 6.5 is their win total. Like 6.5 for the Commanders, 5.5 for the Broncos, right there in line with the Panthers, 6.5 for the Giants. Like those are 3 teams the Panthers can beat. The Chiefs, not happening. The Bucks, both of those could happen at home, on the road. Their win total is 7.5. Eagles 10.5. We'll see if it's still dysfunctional like it was a year ago. I don't see it happening in Philly. I don't see them beating the Cowboys of a 9.5 win total. Cardinals at 7.5. I can see it happening. Will Kyler be healthy by the time they play that game because he is a smaller quarterback? You could ask the same question about Bryce Young. I'm looking at it. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe even 11 games that I can absolutely see his team winning. Like there's Bengals, don't see it. Falcons, don't really see it. Chiefs, Eagles, Dallas, like 5 games right there, maybe 6 games. If you're counting both Atlanta games, I don't really see it. But the rest of those games, 11, other 11, they can't go 6-5 in that. Can't go 5-6, like that. You don't want that, but 6-5, you can go 6-5 in the other 11 games that I see as being very winnable. And all of these games, of course, being in the NFL, are winnable any given Sunday. Like, I look at this and I like the over 5.5 for the Carolina Panthers this season. I have been saying this to anybody who's asked me, what do you think their win total is going to be this season? I don't sit here and tell them 6 wins. I don't tell them 6-11 because that does not sound pleasing to the ear. What does sound pleasing is, what if I told you they could triple their win total from a year ago? You would love that. And I think that's what the Panthers are going to do. 6-11. Triple the win total from a year ago. Not the best record, not something that's going to necessarily have you jumping up and down with excitement, but it's a hell of a lot better than 2-15. Not as good as 7-10, better than 5-12. I think 6, maybe 7 wins, getting the Panthers right back there where they've kind of yo-yo. Like they had the back-to-back years where they won 5 games, then they had 7, and then they fell apart last year. You get back to 7, looking at a division where Atlanta, Kirk Cousins, that's a short-term solution. Michael Penix Jr., I love that man. We'll see if that works out for the Falcons. None of it is guaranteed, and we'll find out. Like in 5 years, if the Falcons know who their quarterback's going to be and if that quarterback's going to be good, no. Do the Saints have that answer? No. Do the Bucs have that answer? No. The Panthers also do not have that answer, but they're trying to find out. There's very few teams you can say have the answer to that question. Like the Bengals, they have that answer. The Eagles have that answer. I mean, the Cowboys should if they're stop messing around with Dak. We know Kansas City has an answer. Buffalo has an answer. Baltimore, not everyone has. And that's just the nature of trying to find a quarterback in the NFL. But looking at this season, 6-11, that's what I'm going with this year. I'm going with the over. Put your money down when you can. Of course, use our friends over at FanDuel to do so. So the Carolina Panthers, they're going to hit exactly 6 wins, plus 550, and they're also going to hit that over 5.5, go 6-11 this season. And that will be a nice little foundation as they head into year 3 with Bryce Young, and year 2, Bryce Young under Dave Canales in 2025, with possibly a chance to contend and what should still be a relatively wide open NFC South. So with that being said, what are my final expectations for the offense and defense heading into this season? I'll tell you here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. You've heard me talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you today. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Football's back, y'all. $5. That's all it takes for 3 weeks for free of NFL Sunday Ticket. And I know if you got DirecTV right now, you're not able to watch a lot of football. And that's just not it at this point in time. Whether it be the NFL or college, you got to be able to watch some ball. So all you got to do, get a YouTube TV, bet $5 on FanDuel, 3 weeks free trial NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. So the Carolina Panthers are going to go 6-11 this season. At least that's what I think is going to happen. Certainly could see them winning 7. Potentially, if things go wrong, could see them only winning 5. But I think they're going 6-11, going to triple that win total this year in 2024. So what does that say about my belief in the Panthers' offense, defense, and special teams? 3 facets of the game that are all vitally important. Starting off with the offense, as we have been doing all offseason long, as the offense is the most important thing when looking at the Panthers and what they need to change and fix this offseason. The quarterback, Bryce Young, he is back. But let's focus on all the things that are around Bryce Young this season, starting off with the offensive line. They spent a ton of money. Don't necessarily believe they had to spend all that money on the offensive line, as if you look at last year, the real problem was the inability for Brady Christensen and Austin Corbett to stay healthy. And that started back in week 18 prior in 2023, or 2022, rather, trying to get my years back together, when they lost Corbett to the ACL in that season, and also had Christensen go down in that game in New Orleans. So right then and there, they were going to have problems on the offensive line. Should Scott Bitterer and his front office done more to alleviate those problems? Certainly. But we felt like at some point in time, Corbett would come back and that Christensen would be back fine. And after 1 week, didn't have Corbett, didn't have Christensen, And then when they got Court back, he was only here for 4 weeks and did not play well. And it was all a disaster as they played, as we know, 7 different left guards, 8 different right guards. That was really the problem, more so than just the offensive line was bad. The offensive line was never healthy. And when they're not healthy, they're not going to have success. The year prior, when they were healthy and you had Corbett and you had Christensen, the team was able to win games once they found an identity on offense with Steve Wilkes as their head coach. And to me, they didn't have to necessarily spend the money, but they did upgrade by getting Robert Hunt at right guard. They did upgrade by putting Damian Lewis at left guard. And they did upgrade by moving Austin Corbett inside to center. And now when you look at the team offensive line wise, with Christensen as a backup, someone who started for you 2 years ago and was supposed to be your starter last year, plus Josh Nijman, you have 2 proven starters in the NFL. I understand that Nyman's been more of somebody that had to fill in due to injury, but he's done it before. Last year, that was not the case. Zavala had never played. Cade Mays had played in the Arby's package as a fullback. He wasn't someone they depended on the offensive line, and they had to throw out Calvin Throckmorton last year and had to go get old guys like Gabe Jackson. They had McCray. It just was an utter disaster. And if they have the same kind of injuries they had last year, it's going to be an utter disaster again this year. But at least they have more depth to potentially withstand any sort of injuries on the offensive line. I think Ike Ekwonu will be better because it's another year of experience. He has another new offensive line coach, and he has guys with experience who hopefully will be healthy. And if something happens to Damian Lewis, he's at least played with Brady Christensen before, and it's not another kind of situation where, oh, hi, I'm Ike, nice to meet you, like it was a year ago. So offensive line-wise, they're better. Receiver-wise, they're slightly better. Now, by saying slightly better, like overall, whoops, as I drop my water, they are better. Slightly because they still don't have enough depth for me to feel good about that position. Adam Thielen, we know what he is. He's not going to have the same numbers he had last year, but Bryce Young believes in him. Deontay Johnson, we've seen all the reports about the connection that he and Bryce have had. We saw a lot of reports last year about DJ Chark and Bryce Young and their connection down at Wofford. That did not carry over to the season outside of, I guess, the Falcons game where they won, the Packers game that they played awesome in offensively. That wasn't something we saw a lot. But Deontay Johnson is a better player than we've seen out of DJ Chark. His Pro Bowl wasn't necessarily an anomaly. The last couple of years have been based off of having Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph, who actually did not play bad, as his quarterbacks. Now he's in a situation where there's still question about the quarterback, but I do think he's set up to have success this year with Bryce Young, having Adam Thielen as well, and an offense that should be a lot more competent than it was last year, and then even some of the ones he's had to deal with in Pittsburgh, even though they still made the playoffs a year ago up there in Steel City. Having Deontay Johnson, that helps immensely as they have 2, not 1. Now, if anything happens to Deontay Johnson in particular, like if something happens to Thielen, I think they can still find a way. If something happens to Deontay Johnson, I really have a tough time seeing him able to win that game and being able to win the games moving forward. Like they can, of course, do it. It's going to be a massive impediment because I just have not seen enough out of Mingo dating back to last year, even so far in the preseason and training camp. Xavier Legette has just not been healthy and he's behind the 8 ball. And I just don't want to place major expectations on him when even when he was healthy, starting up camp, was super behind, probably because he wasn't healthy back in the spring. So we'll see whenever he's able to step up. David Moore, man, it's been a long time since he was at number 3 out in Seattle and looking like a good free agent signing by the Panthers. I have my concerns there. Now, tight end, JT Sanders, that's been kind of a blessing in disguise where they have not had Ian Thomas. I know that's not going to make any of you weep, and they didn't have Tommy Tremble for a lot of time during the preseason training camp. He got a lot of reps, he being JT Sanders, and looking at how things are set up where Thomas is not going to play week 1. He said he'll be ready to go. At least he's aiming for week 2 at home against the Chargers. JT Sanders going to be started. And he's going to be really the only true healthy tight end as Tommy Trimble's been dealing with that hamstring for the last month. He gets an opportunity right away to show what he can do. I just don't know if I can depend on him to be that pass catcher right away for the Carolina Panthers. He's a big impact player, but I do expect this team to be able to run the damn ball, and they're going to be stubborn about it. And that is what Dave Canales has talked about since the very beginning here in Carolina. They are going to run Chuba and Miles Sanders into the ground. These guys are not going to be in black and blue next year. They got Jonathan Brooks. They got him in the second round for a reason. Did they need to get him this year? We can debate that at another time. Certainly think that's a worthy conversation. But as far as this season goes, it's the Chuba and it's the Miles show. And maybe they've been run out Raheem Blackshear and throw Mike Boone out there as well. they're going to have success running the football. And I think they're going to have more success protecting the passer. Now, there's still questions about Icky, and Moton has had his moments so far where it's been like, oh, man, is Taylor potentially cooked? We'll have to watch that. But offensive line-wise, being able to control the ball by running the football and having a better receiver out there, Deontay Johnson as your number one, I think this is going to be an offense that's much better than we saw last year. I talked about this right heading to training camp to say the offense. Go back and listen to that episode back from, I think it was maybe in early July. I still feel pretty much the same way I felt back then. Just have a lot of questions, though, just about that depth, that wide receiver, like the depth on the offensive line. I think the quarterback, who all the focus is on, there's more pieces around him to actually have success this year. They're going to be able to run the ball. This is going to be a much better offense this season. Defensively, I still have my questions, and we talked about multiple times this offseason, how good was last year's defense actually? When you look at the fact they had a ton of injuries, they actually were pretty good considering they should have completely fallen apart. But they didn't fall apart. Derek Brown was great. They didn't have Shaq, but Frankie Louvu was great. Brian Burns wasn't as good as you hoped he would be, but, wasn't a liability for the Panthers. And there's areas where they could have improved. And I do think that by bringing in Ashawn Robinson and replacing him, or replacing DJ Williams with Deshaun Williams, by replacing Deshaun Williams with Ashawn Robinson, and by bringing in Jadeveon Clowney on the outside linebacker over to Brian Burns, and Shaq Thompson coming back, Josie Jewell having been in the system, that this is going to be a much better run defense. Question still about Shy Tuttle and what he's going to provide, because he was one of the lowest graded players in that one series that he played a couple weeks ago against the Bills. I look at this defense often as far as stopping the run, and I think they're going to be able to do it. So they're going to be much better against the run, where they were 31st, according to EPA last year. Expected points added, not great. They're not going to be 31st in the NFL this year, according to EPA, when it comes to run defense. The secondary, I like the safeties. It was going to be the deepest position group on the roster until roster cut down day came, and then the waiver wire came. But still, those three guys that they have in Xavier Woods, the most underrated player on this roster and one of the most underrated safeties, plays a top 10 safety last year, having him, Jordan Fuller, and then Nick Scott, who did struggle last year in Cincinnati, but a different scheme. And we saw Von Bell didn't necessarily play to his best ability in this scheme last year. They trade places and they're back in schemes that they're familiar with. I think Bell plays well in Cincinnati, and I also think Nick Scott helps him out as that third safety this year. JC Horn, got to stay healthy. If he does, he's going to be one of the best corners in the league this season and moving forward, as we all have seen that potential. It's just about being available, and that has been the problem. Looking at the rest of that group, Mike Jackson, he's been a rotational guy who's helped out Seattle the last couple of years. He's got to start up the season until Dane Jackson is back from that hamstring. I'm thinking that week 5 at Chicago should be when he debuts, and the rest of them are a bunch of relative unknowns who just have not played. Shaw Smith-Wade and all the guys that they brought up last week, when they got him off the waiver wire. We'll see what corner looks like. Troy Hill, him, and JC, and really haven't even seen Mike Jackson. Those are the three they're going to depend on. And then we'll see who of the younger, inexperienced players can step up and help them out. Pass rush, just don't see it happening. I don't at all. Wonnum not being healthy and not having a clue when he's going to be ready to go, that is a problem. He's at least going to be out for the first 4 weeks. Mari Barno, he's not close either. DJ Johnson, K'Lavon Chaisson, do something. Like Chaisson, that's the guy I look at. He was a first-round pick. It's possible. Someone thought he was worthy of being one of the best players in the NFL in that draft class, and the Jags took him. It has not worked out. DJ Johnson, I've heard things where his grade was a lot lower than when the Panthers actually took him. So we'll see how that goes. But overall, with this team, I look at the line of scrimmage before I look at any of the skill positions, look at the quarterback. And you got to be able to stop the run. I think they'll be able to stop the run much better than last year. You got to be able to get after the passer. I do not see that happening. You got to be able to run the football. I think they can do that. You got to be able to protect the quarterback. I also think they'll be able to do that. 3 of the 4 things on the line of scrimmage I look at, the Panthers are checking those boxes. Now, the last one that they're missing is a very important box to check, and that's getting after the passer. But at least they're able to protect the passer, and I think they have a secondary that is capable of being able to stay on their men and be able to defend the pass. So we'll see how it all plays out. Those are my final expectations for the defense and offense. I think the offense will be much improved. I think defensively they will struggle at times, and the fact that they cannot get after the passer is going to hurt them and their ability to get out the field. That's going to be probably the thing they address next year in the draft. How can the Panthers restore hope for you, for me, for all of us in 2024? Well, I'll tell you that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. Football season is back, and the best way to get to games this fall is with Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. They make getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's something you'd love to learn? As an adult, you make time to learn new things as often as you'd like? Or was that lost in childhood? Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. What's something you'd like to learn? Gardening, a new language, or maybe how to finally beat your friend in bowling? Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back-to-school era can come at any age. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with licensed therapists and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. The Carolina Panthers have really worn on the heart over the last couple of seasons. We have watched Cam Newton's body fall apart. We have watched fan favorites, franchise legends like Greg Olsen leave town, Luke Kuechly leave town and retire, Thomas Davis. We have watched a bunch of great moments just kind of go by the wayside and wonder what the identity of this organization is about. We've seen an owner who was drinking beers in the parking lot, throwing drinks on fans last year. We have really been through it here in Charlotte and wherever you are as a fan of the Carolina Panthers. And I wonder, heading into the 2024 season, what does this team need to do to restore your hope, your faith, and their ability to be, well, good again, enjoyable to watch on Sunday? I look at three things heading into this year and things I think that Panthers got to do to restore hope. Number one, be fun. Cam Newton, as controversial a figure he was for whatever reason among this fan base, he was fun. He was a fun dude to watch. And having a guy like that as your quarterback, that physical dominating presence, it was enjoyable. And I sit back now and I wonder just how the people who did not enjoy Cam, how they feel today, having watched Baker Mayfield and having watched Sam Darnold and Teddy Bridgewater and PJ Walker the last couple of years. I bet they're wishing to themselves, damn, should have appreciated the quarterback when we actually had one. And that's where the Panthers sit heading in this year. But he was fun. McCaffrey was fun. DJ Moore was fun. Brian Burns is fun. But those guys, their fun wasn't necessarily winning games. You want to find some guys now like J.C. Horn, like Derek Brown, who are entertaining. Xavier Legette, I don't know what he's going to do this year, but every time he talks, I got a big smile on my face. Does that equate to him being a good player and winning games in the future? No, but can he be a big play threat for them down the road? Sure. Deontay Johnson, like there are guys on this roster who can bring back the fun to Carolina. So them just being fun, being entertaining on offense, being aggressive on defense, being able to make plays, get people excited again, having fun, showing their love for football, and just the positivity that Dave Canales brings to this organization, to this fan base. I think it's going to bring back fun here in Carolina. Eventually, maybe not this year, but the hope is that we can start to see some of those fun moments. Like last year, even in a loss against the Packers, scoring all those points, that was fun. Losing, not as fun. The Falcons game a couple years ago with the touchdown pass, PJ to DJ Moore, that game was insane. It was fun. Yeah, you lost. You hated how you lost, but that would be nice. Let's lose that way. Not the way they've been losing recently, where they can't even score any points like they did at the end of the season. Get back to being fun. Number two, you got to develop some young players. I had somebody ask me, like, who's your favorite Carolina Panther player and all that kind of stuff. And we just kind of thought back about the guys in the past. Like, who's the guy you look at right now and you're like, yeah, that's my favorite guy. That's the jersey I want to have. Maybe you want Legette's jersey because you are a South Carolina fan. You love his accent. You love the potential of what he could do. Maybe like Bryce Young and all that. Well, who has really shown you that they're worth really investing in? I look at Derek Brown as someone. There should be a lot of 95 jerseys that are around. Like Shaq Thompson has played well. He's back in 54. Like, but you need to see younger guys. Like Shaq, this is probably his last year. And you look at Derek, he's here to stay, but he's also an older player. Like you want to see whenever Legette plays for him to show that, oh, the Panthers got their first round pick right again. This can be a guy for the future. You want to see the same thing whenever Trevin Wallace gets an opportunity after having strong preseason and training camp. All right, we got something here. Charles Smith-Wade, same kind of situation. Jonathan Brooks, whenever he gets out there, and it's not just them. It's Mingo. It's some of the second-year players. I mean, Zavala, he's gotten better. Now, he's not somebody you're expecting to be a big-time player for you in the future, possibly, but still. Ike Ekwonu restoring faith there at left tackle, finding the development of younger players who, JT Sanders as well, who can be guys you think, okay, he showed some flashes this year. Now when he gets in that spot, that opportunity down the road, we might have something here. Like, I think that's another thing. Really, the third and most important thing is the Panthers getting the most out of Bryce Young. They fired Frank Reich after 11 games because he was not getting the most out of Bryce Young. They got rid of the rest of that offense coaching staff because of what they were unable to do with Bryce Young. You look at guys like Laviska Shenault, he's no longer here because he didn't help Bryce Young. Terrace Marshall Jr., same case. DJ Chark, same. All those guys, offensive linemen, they're not here because of their failings last year to help Bryce Young. Dave Canales is here to get the football right, as he said. But he's also here because of what he did with Geno and with Baker the last two seasons in Seattle and Tampa Bay, respectively. What he did for them is what David Tepper is wanting him to do for us, for the Panthers, for Bryce Young. So like last season, this season's all about Bryce. You got rid of a whole coaching staff, brought in a bunch of new players, try to get this situation right, get the football right for Bryce. So for the Panthers to restore hope, we need to see Bryce Young playing at a high level. Does he need to play like CJ Stroud did last year? Maybe, maybe not, but he can't be what he looked like last season. He has to look more than just capable. I saw Mike Sando of The Athletic put out his quarterback tiers, and there was questions about where Bryce Young would be in the future. He's tier 4. Can he get up to tier 2 after this season? Can he show that the Panthers made the right investment a couple years ago, or will he prove that they made the wrong investment? So if there's any sort of hope that you can derive from this season, it's going to be in the quarterback, and whether the quarterback is good enough to not just be the quarterback for a couple years, or for the next decade. And the hope is that will be the case. And the guy they hired in Dave Canales is the right man for the job. So for me, restoring hope, it's about having fun, developing some young players that you can root for in the future, and what the quarterback looks like. Because those are the 3 things I'm looking at heading into the season in order for my hope to be restored. But I'm certainly thinking for this fan base's hope to be restored and the city's hope in this organization. All right, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all subscribe, follow the show for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, on Twitter at Julian Council, where I'll be answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions tomorrow. So what you got to do is at me or DM me to get those questions into me right now. Do not delay. But in the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole, as always, and forever. Keep pounding. And I'll talk to y'all on Wednesday.